Hey, I spent $25 yesterday just to see a friend of mine for 10 minutes. What's up? It's the Culture Detective here investigating your favorite albums, and today I'm going to be doing an album review on the new Imperial Triumphant album, Spirit of Ecstasy. So, Imperial Triumphant is a New York based avant garde death metal and dissonant death metal band. 2 years ago, they released the album Alphaville, which is an album that I really enjoy, because they basically take the usual death metal but completely change it and reshape it into something really weird, experimental, atmospheric, with tinges and dashes of 1940s, 1950s era Americanisms that are just very interesting. It's a very strange combination of styles, but it just works for some reason. Now they have returned for another album of a similar vein and of a similar style with the Spirit Ecstasy. Spirit of Ecstasy. So the album starts off with Chump Change, with the ravaging drumsticks, the scorching guitars, the deep growls, and the disorienting, detuned, wailing guitars. In about the 2 minute mark, we have a driving rhythm being introduced, and it's just kinda amazing. It's a very odd and strange metal experience, but again, with the guitars and the drums and everything coming together, instead of sounding incredibly aggressive and noisy and angry, it also to a degree sounds very ominous and weird and unhinged, and it's just awesome. Next up, we have the track Metro Vertigo, which is pretty much similar to the first track here, except noisier, more chaotic. We have some relentless detuned riffs and weird hits of disheveled pianos. And at the 4 minute mark, the track suddenly quiets down, and then suddenly we get this oh shout. And it's not a it's oh, it's like it sounds like the frontman of the band just watched his best friend get killed right in front of him. It's such a hilariously painful shout, and I don't know if I enjoy it or not. Maybe to a degree I'm really entertained by it, so in a way I like this track. Next up, we have Tower of Glory, City of Shame, which is a highlight of the album for me. It starts off like a film soundtrack, like a tragic film noir soundtrack from the 40s or 50s. That is followed with these cultish chants, and then the track quiets down, and then it explodes. It becomes a very explosive, aggressive climax. Near the end of the track becomes this super choppy, radio noise montage, which is also very creative and definitely one of my favorite elements of experimentation on this album. That is followed with Mercurius Gilded, with the eerie sad strings and the swooshing sound effects accompanied with the guitars. And also we get these creepy vocal harmonies near the end, which sound like a church hymn, but evil church hymn. That is followed with Death on a Highway, where the band goes a bit psychedelic with the funky electronic production. And I say funky as in, I guess, in a way, the production is just crispier. Of course, death metal can't really sound all that funky, but the rest of the track, in my opinion, is pretty by the numbers for the band. Next up, we have In the Pleasure of Their Company, which is my favorite track off of the album. It starts off with jazz fusion. The first leg of the track is literally just jazz fusion with chaotic guitars and drums, lively horns, and buzzing keyboards. I can get a whole studio album out of this, and I would be really pleased because it sounds fantastic. And then afterwards, it sort of gradually fades into these very steampunk-esque icy guitar riffs, and it sort of slowly builds up to something very huge and gigantic, and it's just one structurally amazing track that's just packed with musical surprises, and it's just awesome. That is followed with Bezumnaya, with the ominous chants and the drony ambient direction that this track goes for. And this track is barely death metal. I mean, sure, it is death metal, or at least it sounds like death metal, and it is pretty much in a similar vein with other tracks on the album, but it's more of an ambient drone track. It's more of a noise track, actually, because it's just so chaotic and so noisy. Finally, the album ends off with Maximal Scream, with the car noises and the chainsaw at the beginning. That is followed with crazy pummeling guitar riffs, and then an atmospheric, spacey second half, and then a very one final explosive avant-garde climax, which is a very satisfying closer. So yeah, even though I didn't really expect much when I entered this album, I really didn't think all that much of this album when I entered it, but I ended up really liking it. Again, I like this album just as much as I do Alphaville. I think these albums are just some of the most interesting metal albums I've heard in a long time, if not ever. So yeah, kind of giving the new Imperial Triumphant album Spirit of Ecstasy a light 8 out of 10. So, have you listened to the new Imperial Triumphant album? For one to 10, would you rate it, like, and subscribe if you want more? Thanks for watching.